Well, welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Time now for the week that was. Let's take a look at the top stories that made headlines around the globe this week. And we'll start with President Bola Tinubu, who has urged young protesters to cancel their planned demonstrations, assuring them that the government is actively addressing their concerns. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, conveyed this message after a meeting with the president at the State House. He emphasized that President Tinubu takes the grievances of the youth seriously. Idris highlighted the government's recent actions, such as the swift approval of a new national minimum wage by the National Assembly, as proof of the president's commitment to improving the country's future. This appeal comes amid growing public discontent and calls for a nationwide protest next month in response to economic hardship and policy decisions.
We also discussed the issue of the country generally, and Mr. President has asked me to, again, inform Nigerians that he listens to them, especially the young people that are trying to protest. Mr. President is listening to them. He takes what they say seriously and is working assiduously to ensure that this country is good, not just for today, but also for the future. The issue of the planned protest, Mr. President does not see any need for that. He's asked them to shelve that plan. He's asked them to await government's response to all their pleas. He has listened to them, like I said, and a lot is happening. Only today, the National Assembly has expeditiously passed the new national minimum wage. You can see how the president is working. It was transmitted only yesterday. Today it has been passed. A lot of other interventions that the president has also put in place are also going to be looked at expeditiously in the interest of Nigeria. So there's no need for strike. The young people out there should listen to the president and allow the president more time to see to the realization of all the goodies he has for them.
Well, still on that matter, security agencies in Nigeria say it would not condone anarchy in the guise of a nationwide protest. The agencies say intelligence reports show that the reasons are political and is capable of destabilizing the nation. Arise News correspondent Ferdinand Dora reports.
It is less than 1 week before the planned nationwide protest fixed for August 1, 2024. While some citizens have vowed to exercise their constitutional rights to show their grievances over increased hardship in the country through protest, security agencies are warning citizens to be cautious. The Department of State Services says it has uncovered the sponsors and funders of the protest, even as it claims that the protest is politically motivated. Similarly, the Nigeria police have appealed to the organizers of the planned protest to shelve the idea, as it might be hijacked by miscreants, bandits and kidnappers, thereby thwarting the original intention of the protesters.
We will remain committed to providing protection for those who engage in peaceful protest. That I made very clear in my address. If the protest is peaceful, you will see us protecting the protesters for as long as they remain peaceful. But we have a duty to protect lives and property. So we will not sit back and watch hoodlums burning down our facilities in the name of protest. That we will not condone.
Meanwhile, the Defense Headquarters says the Nigerian military will not be bystanders while the nation is torn apart. Addressing the media during its bi-weekly briefing on operational activities of the armed forces, the Director, Defense Media Operations, says it will not condone anarchy in the guise of a nationwide protest.
Already, we have detected some unscrupulous elements bent on hijacking the planned protest with the aim of making it violent. Many are therefore following in ignorance. For instance, other targets that have been labeled include places of worship, businesses, markets, ethnic groups, and members of other political parties, among other items and areas targeted. Accordingly, the level of violence being envisaged can only be described as a state of anarchy. The armed forces on its part will not stand by and allow anarchy to befall our nation.
The military cited the protest in Kenya, which turned violent and led to the death of several persons. Ferdinand Duroja, Arise News.
All right, then. This has been the story that has been trailing the news all week. Of course, with everything that has been happening in the country, from inflation to insecurity to hunger, which has triggered this protest. And it's really unfortunate because this really takes me back to 2020 when we had the EndSARS protest that was focused on, of course, putting an end to police brutality. And I think the biggest thing for me when I think about it is it's our right to protest as Nigerians under Section 39. But instead of reactionary protest, for me, I believe that it's a situation where the youth or, whoever it is that feels that they need to go out, need to plan ahead, while fostering political leaders with clear agendas and strong values within established parties. We had the same thing, and we're seeing a lot of, feedback from the military, from the police, from security agencies saying that they are aware of these people who plan to sabotage the protest. So my first question is, if you are aware of these people, why have they not been arrested? Why haven't names been named? We cannot separate the two. There are people that will try to take over the protest, that will try to be violent. We saw it, the protest in October 2020 lasted for about 12 days before we saw that anarchy, and we saw people, who are not necessarily there for the EndSARS protest start to cause trouble and all of that. Now, I bring it back to say this. I remember on the morning of the 20th, there was almost like a division in the group where, of course, there had been protests going on for about 12 days. People were tired. And then that announcement was made by Lagos State government at Sanwo-Olu's office. I think it was about 12 noon, where they said everybody needs to go home. They called a curfew and asked that the protesters go home. And at the toll gates, there was that division where people were saying, oh, no, we're going to stay, we're going to protest. They're trying to, they're trying to dampen down the reasons why we're here. And I remember, and I was having this conversation with a friend yesterday. There was a conversation that came up that said, okay, if they have said that everybody needs to go home and at 4 o'clock, that's what needs to be done. Obey the rules of the land, obey the laws of the land and go. But then there were people that said, no, they're going to stay back. And of course, we saw what happened. In a situation like this, we're always going to have groups of people, factions of people, especially for a protest that doesn't necessarily have a leader. And when we talk about having a leader, of course, it's not as if there's a place that everybody has gone to and then they've given out the right to protest. It's just people who are reacting to what's happening, to the insecurity, to unemployment, to poverty, to corruption. All these things, all these pockets are affecting people at different levels. So, of course, people are going to want to come out, are going to protest. I've already started seeing pockets of people. I saw a video of one man, I think it was in Abuja, protesting on his own. I do not condone violence. I don't think that in any shape, way, or form that, the people and property and lives of Nigerian citizens, should be put at risk because of protests. But instead of all of this vim that we're seeing from the president, where he's now meeting with traditional rulers, meeting with governors, meeting with everybody, why are we not seeing a clear-cut plan as to how the president plans to work on inflation, as to how the president wants to stop corruption in his government? He has about 42 or 40 plus ministers. 46 now. Yes. I can only count maybe 4 or 5 ministries.
Yeah, but we had one suspended one, didn't we?
Yeah.
So we have 46 and 48.
Over 40 ministries, where we're seeing only about 4 or 5 active ministries. What exactly is going on? Cost of governance, he's come out to say, oh, we're going to reduce certain things. But that's what happened in Kenya, where if the youth felt like, no, they had been pushed too far with the finance bill, with the 25% taxation, and then we now saw those protests erupt. Nobody wants Nigeria to fall into chaos and anarchy. But really and truly, I would expect that at this time where the president is meeting with all of these leaders, and the traditional leaders are actually coming forward and saying, this is how you can help. They plan to give us 40,000 bags of rice. How are the traditional... They've been giving us... I did not... But okay, they've
You just came back. That's
on my
understandable.
streets. I asked when I came back, have they brought the rice? They said no, they've not brought the rice. But you understand what I'm talking about. It's not just about now running helter-skelter, trying to stop the protest. It's about looking at the reason why this protests keep coming out, why the need for this protest to keep coming out. We've the minimum wage has been agreed on, but it hasn't been signed in. There's so many things that I guess are the complexities that surround this, and I just really want to see more of more action from the president as opposed to this back and forth.
All right, Bishato, a whole load there, and it's understandable. For me, I think that the NSAS is not, in terms of the need for this type of protest, NSAS is not really the comparison. It's actually the Occupy Nigeria protests.
When I speak about NSAS, I speak
I understand
about
you, and I'm
the
coming
anarchy
there.
that came
I'm coming there. I'm
okay.
just trying to say that NSAS wasn't about. It didn't start with bad government or protesting against the economic policies. Occupy Nigeria in 2012 was, and that's the reason why you have seen the president repeatedly saying that yes, people say that I supported a protest in the past and that I participated in the protest. But those were protests, that I went forward with my full chest, and we didn't destroy anything. Because I think it is important to make that clarification so that people don't think it's okay to just throw out anything in the social media and then use words that can, that can inflame, the country about, burning down, about days of rage and things like that. So that's the difference for me. People should protest when necessary. And you can see that the situation that most Nigerians are at this time around is even more dire than where, Nigerians were in 2012. Yeah. Even more so because the subsidy that was part of what triggered the 2012 has now been removed, but we can see the consequences. Is the government dealing with those consequences, with the issues? I believe the government is doing so. They may not be sufficient. You have mentioned the issue of the minimum wage. A lot of people will point at the student loan. People will point at, the report, the fresh report by the Minister of Finance, giving out figures and stuff and how things seem to be improving gradually. But of course, that won't stop any protest because everybody knows what your pocket was saying by this time last year and what it is saying now. Where I side with the government is in the area of the likelihood of violence erupting. And therefore, there's no government that will fold its hands and allow that to happen. I know what happened in Lagos in 2020 during the NSAS thing. And you remember that NSAS didn't start with violence. It started peacefully, even though that also had an issue. Part of what people are saying is that even if you are allowed to protest, your protest, even if it is not violent, should not stop other Nigerians who are not necessarily part of that protest from carrying out their duties. Blocking roads, doing different things. I like to make this important point. When people remember, and I was part of the government in Lagos State that invested in most of the things that were destroyed. The DNA laboratory, which was the first of its kind in West Africa. The buses, more than 80 of them that were burned down. All of those things were by the Ambody administration. Of course, Lagos State government, which of course, Sanwo-Olu government has built on. The theater that was burnt down in Oregon, of course, was built, by the government that I served at that time. And so you wonder when people are now using similar words that characterize NSAS on the social media, people are not going to sit down and fold their hands. So I think it is important that, yes, the message from the military, the Inspector General of Police should be a lot more civil, should be a lot more, citizen-friendly, while you are still insisting that you won't allow violence to happen. So I think that that's where I stand. Protest shouldn't be stopped, but it shouldn't get violent. If it does, government will have to step in.
Well, I would say that for me, the most significant thing is that the president still has not addressed the Nigerian people himself personally. He has not come out and spoken. He has spoken through his aides. He has spoken through ministers. He has spoken to traditional leaders. He has spoken to APC governors. He has not himself come out and spoken to the Nigerian people. So if he does take the complaint...
He has not spoken to the Nigerian people?
He has not addressed us directly.
Like a national address? Why is that? Why does he have to do that?
Because if you're saying that it is
for a protest that has not been done?
If you're saying that it is so important, it is so dire, that the situation is so frightening that the DSS, the military have released statements, that you get traditional leaders in the villa, that you've got governors coming into the villa, then I think it is important that you actually address the people. How seriously are you taking it?
There is no seriously, in my opinion.
I do not think. I do not think that is. I do not think. He has called all
major stakeholder groups, and I think that is very important.
I do not think it is enough.
Maybe it's not. I mean, I understand you. I'm just saying that. I'm just saying that Nigeria is not at war.
Yeah, I'm not saying it is not about being at war. Things do not have to be. Violence and conflict. It does not have to be to that level for our leaders speak to us directly. There's a posturing from our leaders that it must be. It does not.
I don't think it does not.
But
I agree that that's your opinion.
And my second point is this, that protests are inherently political. Saying that a protest is political does not actually denigrate the fact that protests themselves are political. This is economic. People are arguing against economic situation. That in itself is a political situation. So a protest is going to be political. It does not need to be violent. It does not need to go into chaos. But a protest is political.
I don't think that was the point.
I'm just saying that it is necessary.
I get your point. So
yes.
I'm just saying that the point about the government is that they're not saying it's not political. They're saying that it's been politically instigated. There's a difference.
And that's my question to the two of you, because we saw that report where we saw Egbeto speak specifically to the fact that they had uncovered people who were going to infiltrate the protest.
There's intelligence.
There's always intelligence. There's always.
What he's doing all the time.
So why have those people not been picked up? Why have they not been questioned? Why are we just still
valid question? Let's see what happens. The protest won't start until Thursday, if it will start at all.
The same day Oro Festival is starting.
I don't know about Oro. Nobody has signed anything officially from Lagos State government. Don't be afraid of Oro. I mean, you're a daughter of the soil. All right, we'll move on. Tributes have been pouring in following the death of the President General of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, Chief Emmanuel Iwuanyanwu, who has died at 82. Our rights correspondent, Friday Oloko, takes a look at the life and times of the late businessman and newspaper publisher.
Emmanuel Iwuanyanwu, until his death, remained an elder statesman, politician, nationalist and President General of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, with a towering stature, not just in the southeast, but across the nation. Born on Friday, September 4, 1942, in Ikeduru local government area of Imo State, he studied civil engineering at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, before embarking in business ventures that grew into a conglomerate of over 20 companies, including Oriental Airlines and Champion newspapers. He had 3 unsuccessful shots at Nigeria's highest political office, the presidency. Iwuanyanwu was passionate about restoring peace to the southeast, and this is what he said in his last interview with Arise News.
Our forebears have worked very hard to build a very formidable Igbo who are respected in Nigeria. But unfortunately, what I'm seeing today is incredible. Yes, I'm aware that some Igbo young people, like young people in other tribes in Nigeria, feel they are not quite satisfied with how things are going. I think Nnamdi Kanu is part of people who have felt unsatisfied. But that doesn't entail going to kill or going to set up an army or plan to kill anybody. We live in a country, Nigeria, and there is a constitution in Nigeria. And anything anybody wants to get from any civilized society must be done through a constitutional process.
Reacting to his death, the National Publicity Secretary of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, Dr. Chiedozie Ogbonnaya, said Iwuanyanwu had a towering personality, while the governor of Enugu State, Dr. Peter Mba, described the death of Iwuanyanwu as a fall of a great Iroko and an incalculable loss to Ndigbo. A former governor of Abia State, Senator Orji Uzor Kalu, In his tribute, says Iwanyao was a patriotic elder statesman and selfless leader who was passionate about the growth and progress of Nigeria. Some residents of Owerri metropolis describe Iwanyao as an icon.
Honestly, everybody is sad. We have lost a rare gem. I don't know how to describe him. President General Ohanaeze Ndigbo. Some people see him as Aheja Gamba, one of Igbo land, our foremost engineer. Some people call him Hadel and Enik. Some people call him Champion's newspaper. He's a great man, touched so many lives.
He was a very nice man. He's an asset. An Iroko tree has fallen in Igbo land. An Iroko tree. We missed him so much.
We are crying over his demise, but what do? We believe that God will replenish us with another Iwanyao soonest.
Some Southeast leaders are now calling on President Bola Tinubu to honor Iwanyao by releasing the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, since that was his desire as President General of Ohanaeze Ndigbo worldwide.
All right, that was a beautiful tribute there to the late Ohanaeze Ndigbo's President General, Chief Emmanuel Iwanyao. We knew him in our circle in the media as the publisher of Champion newspapers. And of course, he did champion so many causes, particularly for the Ndigbo, before he passed on. I think he spent just about 2 years or thereabouts as the President General, succeeding Professor George Obiozo, who was in the saddle before him. But sadly, at 82, he passed on to glory. I mean, he has honored us on this program a number of times to discuss, national issues, particularly those, if you recall, bordering on the issues of Igbo, particularly the Igbos in Lagos State. So we will miss him. I think that a lot of people value what he represented, what he stood for. And I like the fact that the president himself, like many other people, governors, members of the National Assembly, people in the private sector, have saluted that man and what he stood for. We'll look forward to who will be the next President General of the Ndigbo and what they represent. Part of the demand, particularly for Chief Iwanyao, was the release of Nnamdi Kanu. But of course, we know that the case is still in court. People have been talking about political solution to it, just like he did. We will see how that goes with the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But he was a titan, he was a patriot, and he served the nation very well, even though for the 3 times that he attempted to be president, he didn't make it. Well, he became the President General of the socio-cultural apex organization of the Ndigbo. And I think that should at least compensate for his ambition. We'll miss him. And of course, our condolences
to his family.
To his family.
Definitely.
Would anybody like to say a few
I mean,
words
just quickly touch on, there's a lot of things he did, in the Igbo community. But outside of that, he was also known for his philanthropy and, of course, for his public service. He had several political offices, for the Nigerian government. He was the founding chairman of the Raw Materials and Research Development Council. He was also chairman of the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission. There was a lot that he did. He founded the Iwanyao National Football Club, which won several national and international scholarships. So you could see that he wasn't just, international championships. Excuse me. He was the chairman of the National Sports Development Fund and, of course, the chairman of the Nigerian Football Association, USA 94. So you could see that he was very, very involved. He made private donations, in book presentations, weddings, birthday ceremonies, and many other events that were calculable as a comprehensive inventory of his philanthropical attempts, especially in his authorized biography, in which he detailed that 82, some would say, gone too soon, but he did live a long life. And I again repeat condolences to his family. He will be missed.
Well, that's a wrap on the week that was. But as we make progress, let's take a minute or two to bring you up to date with a few stories making the rounds. And we'll start in America because Americans had the opportunity of seeing their former president, Donald Trump's heir, for the first time since he survived an assassination attempt earlier this month. The bandage covering his right ear was removed during his appearance at a conservative group summit in West Palm Beach. In his speech, Trump attacked Vice President Kamala Harris while talking about various issues related to religion and evangelical voters. He criticized the vice president for being liberal during her time in the Senate.
Is written, I defended this law, this Constitution. Then they say, he is not for democracy. I took a bullet for democracy. He didn't. And I might have taken it because of their rhetoric. Who knows? I withstood vicious attacks to pick and confirm 3 great Supreme Court justices, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. They're great people. They're courageous people. We've also achieved what the pro-life movement fought to get. For 50 years, they've wanted to get this. For 50 years, they've been working so hard, getting abortion out of the federal government. They wanted it out. That means everybody, Democrats, liberals, Republicans, conservatives, they wanted it out, and they wanted to bring it back to the states for 51 years, to be exact. And that's the way everybody, all legal scholars, virtually.
Meanwhile, relatives of U.S. hostages being held in Gaza have met with President Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu at the White House, calling the discussions productive and honest. Speaking to reporters afterwards, the family members said that they came today with a sense of urgency and emphasized the need to complete a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas that could result in the release of their loved ones. They added that they are more optimistic about a deal than they have been in months.
We came today with a sense of urgency. As you know, as time goes forward, the likelihood of getting our hostages home, our loved ones home, alive and recovering the bodies of those who have already been murdered becomes less and less likely. So as families, we came in really emphasizing to the leaders of the United States and of Israel a desire to get this deal done, this 3-phase deal that the president announced a few weeks ago and has been on the negotiating table.
All right, finally, at least 125 Boko Haram terrorists and financiers have been convicted in a resumed mass trial in Kainji, Niger State. They were convicted of terrorism, terrorism financing, and cases relating to International Criminal Court criminality. The trials held under the Giwa Project Kanje Phase 5 were before 5 federal high court judges led by Binta Nyako, the Attorney General of the Federation, and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi is superintending over the trial in conjunction with the Office of the National Security Advisor. The spokesperson of the Attorney General of the Federation says about 400 people who have completed their sentence have been moved to Operation Safe Corridor in Gombe State for rehabilitation, de-radicalization, and subsequent reintegration.